Greetings and welcome to another edition of This Is My Offer. My name is Vijay Raghavendra. I'm the Global Partner Lead for Data and Analytics for AWS, and I cover the industrial segment. Today, I'm joined by John Traynor, who is from TensorIoT, a strategic partner. John, can you
Yeah,
please introduce yourself?
yeah, absolutely. Great to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity. And as you said, I'm with TensorIoT. We're an AWS partner, advanced tier services partner, really focused on IoT, AI, ML, and advanced analytics. My background the last 10 years in manufacturing, industrial automation, and analytics, and before that, about 20 years in enterprise software. We've got an entire team of folks around the world ready to help customers with their challenges in their particular businesses. Great to be here.
Yep. Thank you, John. Can you also give us a little more insight into what you're focused on as you work with AWS? What trends are you seeing in the industrial environment when it comes to adoption of generative AI and advanced analytics in the industrial environment? If you can share some light there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always a desire to improve operational efficiency and understand how to do things better in industrial environments, particularly in manufacturing. I mean, at the end of the day, manufacturing is about making things. And so it's always a question of how can I make more things with the same resources, or make the same number of things using less resources, or do it with higher quality, lower cost, do it with more safety for workers, greater satisfaction for customers, less variation in product. All of these things ultimately require data. You need to be making data-driven decisions with any of this. And so certainly part of our IoT practice helps people just get data out of their industrial environments. That's always the challenge. And then our AI and ML practices are focused on how do we analyze that data and really go from giving people situational awareness by gathering data to being able to develop actionable insight and ultimately help people make much more confident operational decisions. So if they're trying to, for example, understand root cause analysis on a quality issue, they're really gathering live data from the plant floor. They're analyzing that in a consistent way so they know the data has been normalized and contextualized. So when they're looking, say, at the difference between two plants or two lines or two paint shops, they know that that's being done consistently. And then have a closed loop of feedback. So when they make changes inside the environment, they can immediately see the results of that. And where we're starting to see the use of generative AI definitely comes down to areas where the volume of analysis or the types of things that might need to be done and goes beyond the scale of what people can normally do with certain spreadsheets or other things on their own today, and also provides the ability for less experienced people or operators in the plant environment to be able to ask a natural language interface or a chat interface about that information, because they may not have, it might be 2 o'clock in the morning in the paint shop, I may have a problem with drip marks or defects, and I may not want to wake up an engineer in the middle of the night to have the best expertise available. And so being able to rely on generative AI for that, informed by all of the data from the operating environment at the plant, is a huge benefit. So that's just one example of how modern data analytics and generative AI are being pulled in and used together.
Okay. Thank you for that, John. So as we look at clients who are really looking to leverage some of the generative AI applications through the massive amounts of data that they have gathered in their industrial environment, what are some of the critical elements that they're focused on, specific to like data privacy issues and things like that, which we see clients bringing up all the time? Anything you can share there?
Yeah, that's a really great point, Vijay. Thanks for asking the question. Talk to manufacturers around the world, and they all have their own proprietary methods and their own techniques for being able to do things. Particularly, for example, if you talk to an automaker, the design of new cars and all of that information is something that they see as critical information to keep in house. And so, what we've been telling customers is you don't want to be in a situation where you have to take your own operating or proprietary data and end up, sending it to somebody else's external service or foundational model to do any of that work. You really want to be able to do all of that inside your own environment, your own computing environment. And so, for example, we tell customers you always want to own and control your own data inside your own AWS account. And so actually one of the great benefits we see from working with AWS and services such as Amazon Bedrock and SageMaker and all of the capabilities that are available for generative AI and AI and machine learning in general, is that you can operate on all of that data inside the customer's own account. So they have their own private virtual cloud environment that only they have access to the data. They don't need to send their data outside to train a foundational model. We can bring those large language models and that capability directly into their account, work on that data. We can even fine tune that model in the context of their own account, but none of that leaves their account. It doesn't go out to train somebody else's model, and it's not available to anybody else. And so really that's a sort of a difference in terms of what we see in the marketplace. You want to make sure that your data is being used in your own computing environment and not being shared with others and not being used to train somebody else's model.
To dive a little deeper and to bring it all together, would you be able to share any specific solutions or demonstrations that you may have that is going to bring it all together?
Well, sure. I think maybe we can do both. So let me do a little bit of a demo first, if we can bring up the screen, and then we'll kind of walk through what this might look like in an industrial environment, and then I can talk about some other real-world customer examples that we have today, and I think we'll have a link to some of those in the description of the video as well. So here I've got a typical type of manufacturing dashboard system here. This is TensorIoT SmartInsights. Before we even had generative AI, we were making this available to customers to help them gain insight into their manufacturing operations. And so I've got multiple sites here around the world. Each of those sites has assets. Those sites have properties, and so I can kind of drill in and I can navigate around in the map, move into a particular area of the world here. Let's say I'm going to look into this particular plant here. When I drill in, I'm brought to the plant environment. I can see an overview, so I have a full view of what's going on inside my operation. Here we can see as I hover over this is labeled, paint shop. So I've actually got a paint booth, an area inside that plant. And so when I click in on that, I can be taken directly to the data from that particular environment. So in this case, it's data that's coming from a PLC telling me exactly what's going on with all of the different equipment there. Well, that's great, but I may not know by looking at these graphs, how I'm going to solve a particular problem with, drip marks or anything else that's happening in that environment. And so within SmartInsights, we can embed something we're calling TensorInsights, which allows us to use generative AI capabilities against a customer's own data to be able to answer questions or derive insights for them. So, for example, here's a question I asked just before we started recording, which, for example, is how do I reduce drip mark defects in our paint shop? And so I'm able to take all of that telemetry data, general knowledge about how that operation works, and then I've got answers here that go from everything from paint viscosity to the correct temperature to the correct spray gun setup, and steps through all of the different things: flash times, film thickness, how to maintain the area, doing predictive or doing regular maintenance, and so on. And so I have that expertise available to me right in this same application that an operator might use on the production floor to get insight into to what's happening. And that allows me to go beyond simple troubleshooting, asking questions like that. I could get into carbon offset emissions or anything that I'm measuring data, about. I could get insight using, natural language query against a generative AI background. And then I can, look into other tools here to just sort of get an overall, kind of OEE snapshot. And so just reinforcing that this is integrated where I'm bringing all of my data here. So I'm looking at, availability, performance, quality, all of that analytics being done, and also that being available to generative AI to address questions. So that's it for the demo. And so let me just maybe, take a few minutes to talk about some of the other, kind of customer examples that we have. And again, there's going to be links to this in the description of the video. People can read these case studies in more detail. But for example, we've worked with a company that's doing carbon accounting, and they wanted to be able to get insight from operations and make that available so that you're collecting scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 to understand greenhouse gas emissions, and use generative AI to be able to understand how to map the information in different parts of the environment to give that proper output. And again, there's lots of regulatory and compliance issues, around that. So that's sort of, an example. When I think about just, manufacturing, supply chain, and logistics, overall, we've worked with, a company that wanted to modernize their information structure. And just as I was sort of the example I gave in the demo of putting machine telemetry together with, sort of troubleshooting, they wanted to be able to bring together disparate systems to report their logistics, supply chain, and manufacturing data in one place. So whether it was, inventory or production schedules or whatever that was, they wanted to have that in another place. And then we've got, another, just maybe to give one more example, sort of another company that's using, this to do root cause analysis and identify failures and categorize that failure. So then, paving the way to then be able to troubleshoot and provide recommendations, for things. So that's a case where generative AI is really helping with root cause analysis in product quality, in an engineering environment as well. So there's lots more examples like that. We've been one of the, early partners with AWS in moving into generative AI, and have lots of other examples we can share with folks as well.
Yep. Yeah, thank you, John. So this really shows that the scope or the potential to apply generative AI applications across the industrial environment, whether you're trying to affect manufacturing efficiencies, or whether you to drive your sustainability goals, or whether you're trying to affect your supply chain transformation, really the sky's the limit in terms of the kind of applications and the use cases there are for generative AI. This has been really wonderful, and thank you so much for a great demo and the use cases that you shared, John. And for more information, obviously there are links in the description box for this video. And thanks for tuning in to This Is My Offer, and we look forward to the next session again. Thank you very much.
Great, Vijay. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.